for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, here in the WYSL studio with Bob Savage.
What a perfect day this is.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better in Western New York than this.
Yeah, it looks real nice. Over the weekend was great too. Actually, I spent a lot of time outdoors over the weekend, and I tell you, where I was, it was warm. I think it got up to 89 degrees.
Yeah, it was kind of steamy on Sunday.
Yeah, it was definitely warm. Got some sunshine for sure, which is interesting because on Saturday, you guys might have seen that New York City had a blackout.
You know, it's funny. Mrs. Savage and my mother-in-law, her mom, were down in New York seeing jazz. Well, they were all coming back. He was at a summer camp, a theater arts camp down there. And they came back. They must have missed that by an hour.
Really?
They flew out of LaGuardia, and they came back to Rochester. By the time the wheels were on the ground in Rochester, we were reading about the.
Yeah. So
is that weird? I mean, it's exactly the anniversary of the blackout in 77?
42 years to the day.
Is that weird?
That is just strange, you know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I typically say I don't believe in coincidences. In this case, I think it's just a coincidence. You know, I don't see any way that they would be related. But that is just the most bizarre thing, that 42 years to the day.
Somebody this morning said to me, "What are the chances of that happening?" I said, "Well, let's see.
Apparently,
that'd be 1 in 360, 1 in 365."
Yep.
But so it's not those long odds, I don't suppose.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But so I saw that was interesting. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today on the show. And then I've got to talk with you guys about this storming Area 51 thing. So we'll talk about that.
What?
Yeah. We'll talk about that later in the show. You're not really on social media, so you probably haven't seen it.
So we're doing overnight Art Bell stuff now. We have black helicopters.
Something. Yeah. We'll talk about it because essentially it's a farce, but like it's been picked up and people think it's real now. So we're going to talk about the media, talk about how this sort of thing happens. But first, I wanted to hit the New York City blackout, give you guys a little bit of information and talk about some things that we can take away from this and things that we should really learn from this. So actually, total aside, not related to what I planned or intended on talking about, but it was also very ironic that over the weekend I was doing CERT training. Monroe County has an amazing program. It's actually funded normally through FEMA, but I think FEMA actually reduced their funding the last year, and the local government would really be overwhelmed. And it's really the community's job to take care of the community. Well, the issue that they were finding, it actually started with earthquakes in California, is when a bad thing happened, people would rally together. They'd put everything aside. They'd put aside politics. They'd put aside whatever discriminatory factors they have, you know, whatever, and they'd help their neighbor. Problem was, so many volunteers were dying because they just had no training. They didn't know how to help their neighbor, or the help that they were offering to their neighbor or somebody in their community actually killed them because they just didn't know. They saw a piece of rebar in somebody. Well, they pulled it out of them thinking they were helping. The person ended up dying and bleeding out. Or they would go into a building that just wasn't safe to rescue somebody, and they ended up dying.
Or they pull the rebar out without realizing it's electrically live.
Sure, yeah, it could be any of those things. So they came up with this CERT program, this idea to, help people in the event of natural disaster. And one of the things that they go through is power outages. And literally, as we're talking about this in this program, I did about 6 years ago. I went to kind of like help out with another program at a different part of the state. There you go, New York City blackout.
See, there you go,
Yep.
Cause and effect, Andrew.
Yeah, it was clearly
your fault.
Yep.
You started talking to me, brought it on.
Yep, absolutely. So kind of some interesting things that were going on during this blackout. There were some Broadway shows going on that were impacted. So you're in the theater, all of a sudden, boom, lights go out. There was a Jennifer Lopez concert that was going on.
Madison Square Garden,
Yep, at Madison Square Gardens. The other thing that was really interesting to me was that the traffic lights, I guess, weren't on any type of battery backup system. There's no fail-safe for them. So the streets actually went black. The traffic lights went black, and people just sat there in gridlock.
There were a lot of volunteer. I don't know if you saw the pictures on the web. A lot of volunteer traffic cops.
Oh, sure.
Civilians went right out in the middle of intersections and started waving traffic through.
Yep, that's the only way. So some of the stuff that was interesting. I'll actually talk about that a little bit. Some of the things that were kind of a surprise to me. But before I do, I gotta tell you, where our government officials stand with just anything, because immediately when this happened, they fired up the tax dollar ATM machine so it could start spitting out cash. Cuomo shows up deploying New York State troopers. Schumer starts calling for an investigation. He wants the Department of Energy's office, or the Department of Energy Office of Electricity, say that one 5 times fast, to investigate how they're maintaining the city's power grid. And they need federal agencies now to get involved and apply what they learned from this outage on a national scale.
Oh, God forbid. That's just what we need, the feds to come parachuting in here.
Yep. And of course, de Blasio is like, yeah, you know what? That might be a good idea. Let's spend some money here. So immediately, disaster, which a power outage isn't quite a disaster, especially, on this scale.
They happen. Why is everybody?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like,
it's so funny. The politicians are all like frothing at the mouth about this. I didn't get the sense from the news coverage and from the pictures that I saw that the population was unduly alarmed.
No.
Everybody seemed to be being totally cool and handling it.
Yeah. So what happened is, the Broadway shows that went down, some of the actors went to the windows and they actually sung the show out the window. So people went out, they gathered in the street, and they sung the show. That was really awesome. That was great.
Shakespeare in the Park, man.
Yeah, some churches, it looked like they had their choir members get together, and they went out in the streets, and they had choir out in the streets.
Oh, have you ever been? By the way, just a quick side note: you ever been in New York City, like around Christmas time, when the Salvation Army goes out, and of course they do the Red Kettle campaign.
Oh yeah, of course, yep.
Those Salvation Army performers are unbelievable. Some of them are amazing. I mean, they're like, there could be a Salvation Army show on Broadway.
Yep.
I mean, they sing, they dance, they harmonize. I mean,
that's
they
great.
play instruments.
I tell you what, New York City's got a lot of talent down there. I mean, you could just be walking down the street in Times Square or even in the subway system.
Oh, yeah.
And there's somebody doing something amazing.
Yep.
And sitting there with a little bucket or a hat, for people to give them donations. And
saw some drummer playing drywall buckets. He was like Gene Krupa.
There you go. Yeah. Now, how many people are in New York City? What do you think? 12 million?
No, so that's about 8. I think
8 million. So just to kind of put this in perspective here, you've got 72,000 people without electricity out of 8 million, and you got 0.9%
less than 1%
of the population here, and now we're going to bring in the feds for an investigation over something that didn't even impact 1% of the local population.
Well, what's Rahm Emanuel, don't let a good crisis go to waste.
Sure, yeah.
Even though it's not really a crisis, we'll call it one.
Yep. So some of the things I thought were interesting was that the traffic lights had no battery backup, especially with today's LED technology. You know, a battery could run LEDs for a really long time.
That's one heck of a lot of batteries.
It certainly is, and I was just surprised with the way things are today that they wouldn't at least switch over to red light flashers or something like that. Like, I was just really surprised. The other thing that I guess I hadn't really thought about, but that also surprised me, was there was no backup for the subways. So people are stuck on subway cars for like hours and hours. And I'm like, oh, that seems kind of interesting to me that there's no generator backup or something like that.
I don't think, practically speaking, you could have a generator that would power subways, because the amperage pull is so great to pull those cars. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a DC system, as you know. So there's tremendous power loss for the transmission of direct current. Yeah. I mean, when Edison first did his DC home lighting circuits, they had to have a generating station every 3 miles because, there's just so much line loss. And that actually was the major reason for the development of alternating current, because it can be transmitted
go much further.
Reasonable distances.
Yeah. So that was just kind of like one of those things. I don't use a subway daily. That was interesting to me. The last thing that I want to just bring up before we take the break here is that people were trapped in elevators. And I could have sworn I've read before that elevators, when they lose power, use gravity to go to the first floor and the doors automatically open.
No, they actually, it's easier for an elevator to go up than down.
Yeah. So that was interesting to me too. I was like, seems like there is maybe room for improvement, maybe not. Maybe it's just, misconception on my end. When we come back, we're going to talk about where de Blasio was during all of this, kind of the criticism that came out of that, and what I think an underlying issue is that we need to look at as New Yorkers on the political spectrum of a disaster. We'll be back on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail.
Thanks, Matt.
Ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. simple tech innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
I don't know about you, Andrew, but I'm just waiting for the left wing, rubric to come out about the blackout. First of all, it's due to global warming, of course.
Yep. Okay.
Or white privilege.
Could be.
Or it's an expression of hate that that whites orchestrated the blackout to make blacks look bad.
And why has it got to be a blackout? I mean,
what good point. Look at that. That's my white privilege showing again.
Geez, come on. Yeah, no, there are times that sort of stuff, where somebody blames something on something that's totally unrelated, and they try to make it about race.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's very frustrating.
There's going to be a ban of the term blackout now because it's racist.
Yep. Yeah. Why has it got to be a blackout? That's so. For those who are just joining the show, this is Radio Free New York, and we're talking about the blackout that happened this weekend in New York City. Impacted less than 1% of the New York City population. Now Schumer wants a federal investigation, and
they're great.
Cuomo sent in the state police cavalry, which I did see that there was some crime and stuff like that. People did take advantage of that, but I would like to hope and believe that the NYPD, the New York Police Department, can handle that. I don't know. I don't know much about their police department, but it's my understanding they have a huge force. Whether or not we need to spend money to send state police there isn't really something that I would know if that was valid or not. However, it happened. The thing that really made the news, though, which is interesting, and maybe more interesting, who published it, is the fact that Mayor de Blasio was not in New York City at the time. He was in Waterloo, but not Waterloo, New York, Waterloo, Iowa. And he was there campaigning to be president. So
he's delusional.
So although that's not so strange, what might be interesting is that CNN is the one that called him out on it, and they're attacking him over it.
Interesting.
Saying that we were just talking about off air how often New York City has blackouts, and at least according to Wikipedia, I see 4.
Yeah, not many.
65, 77, 2003, and 2019.
Yeah, I remember the 2003 one. That actually reached up here. That affected us.
Was that the one that it was like a power grid issue in the Northeast?
Yeah, it was actually traced to some feeder in Ohio, I think.
Yeah.
And that was actually what prompted us to get the emergency generator here.
Yeah. I actually recall that. I was at a friend's house when it happened, and I remember people like tuning into their radios, trying to listen in here. This wasn't the age of smartphones quite yet. So, people were listening to the radio and stuff, trying to figure out what's going on. Why is the power out? It's like all over the place. So, yeah, I do recall that. So New York City's lost power, 4 times in the last 50 years. I think that, come upstate. It seems that in Monroe County alone, we lose power somewhere at least 2 or 3 times a year, and 3,000 people without power here or there. It seems to be way more common for us. So I'm not here to defend de Blasio, and that's the mayor of New York City. But what I am here to say is that in terms of not being there during a disaster, if you could plan for a disaster, then it probably wouldn't be a disaster, right? Like, if we're just going to talk about this and just be really frank and straightforward, if you could go, you know what, next month the grid's gonna come down, I bet you they'd put some fail safes, people would know about it in advance, that sort of thing. So I actually don't mind the fact that he wasn't in New York City when this happened. In fact, that's the purpose of a deputy mayor. That's the purpose of having a team and an office to take care of this sort of thing. And you can't predict these things. So in technology, we've got smartphones, we've got computers, we've got email, text, phone call, video conferencing. Technology makes it very easy to manage a disaster from a distance. That's not an issue. But This brings up something that I think is really important to discuss, not just in New York State, but across the country. And that is, when you have somebody elected into office, they should be showing up to work every day just like anybody else. And that's really what I want to talk about. If you're going to go campaign, whether it's for the seat you currently hold or for a higher up seat, like you're going from mayor to president, that's your aspirations, and you're taking time off to campaign, it better be vacation time, it better be submitted, or it should be unpaid leave. That's what it should be. At no point in time should the taxpayers be paying for you to travel around. And I bet you if we looked and saw how he's traveling around, I bet you if he has a security detail that's paid for by the residents of New York City, I bet you that security detail's with him.
Oh, of course.
I bet you that, depending on what type of travel he's using, I bet you the residents of New York City are paying for that. And I tell you what, this was an issue that came up during the last gubernatorial election when Larry Sharp and I were running for governor and lieutenant governor. Cuomo was running on a taxpayer salary. All his travel, everything he ran for was paid for by you and I, whether we wanted to or not.
That's the way it works.
Same thing with the Republican candidate. He was running off a county exec salary. And, there was actually some stuff that came up about his vehicles that he was renting to travel across the state were being paid for through the county budget that he was managing.
That's not right.
So, there's issues there. Your
campaign should pay for that.
Yeah,
that's a campaign expense.
It should be campaign expense. It should be, there's no way you should ever be running for office and using taxpayer dollars to pay for that campaign. So that's an issue I see, straight out of the gate. And it's funny because the left actually sees this as an issue too. Their answer to it is just different. So my answer to it is no, go out, raise support, raise funds. You pay for it that way. You save up your money. You do that sort of thing. The left's answer to this is, well, the government should pay in equally into everybody's campaign and do it that way.
Right.
And I'm like, no. Hold on. No,
we have to point this out again. It's not the government. No, it's not the government. It's you. It's you and me and Andrew and Bob D down the hall.
Yep.
That's who's paying for this.
Yeah.
Government has no money.
So there should never be, in my opinion, there should never be a situation where somebody is running for office, collecting a government salary for the days that they are out there campaigning, and using taxpayer funds to pay for their travel and their promotion of their candidacy. So that's what I took out of this. I know some people are like, we need to investigate the grid. Look at how people came together. That's a beautiful thing, how people came together during the power outage. That's amazing. But what I see out of this is how we have somebody elected into office using taxpayer funds to travel the country for personal gain. I think that's a serious issue and that we have to address it.
I think it's really interesting how the media is going after de Blasio now, too.
Yeah, you know what? There wasn't many outlets that did. So it's one of two things to me. It's either his campaign team was looking for media attention, and so they slipped it to a few people to run so his name could pop up in the news. There's good news or bad news. Your name is there. You're bringing attention to yourself. Or just too many places were afraid to call him out on it. I'm not sure which one it is. I don't know which one it is.
Afraid of Mayor Big Bird.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. The article.
What can he do to you?
Yeah, well, it's funny too because the CNN article, which typically they're pretty left, they even said that he's really lost a lot of support in New York City. And that he's not doing very well just in general as a mayor, and that this actually is hurting him even more. So they're not pulling any of the punches.
They hate him down there.
Yeah,
It's so funny because when Bloomberg was mayor, my barometer, my test case is to talk to cabbies, and now Uber drivers. Yeah. So you strike up a conversation with them politically.
Yeah.
And now that Uber's there, most of the drivers speak English, so it's an easier thing to get done. But they hated Bloomberg. Oh, yeah, it's just a rich guy and, 1% and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They hate Mayor Big Bird even worse.
And it's interesting that they dislike this guy, but he keeps getting elected. that's just maybe the most
termed out now, isn't he? Isn't this the end? I think.
You know what? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure if they have terms down there. I know in Rochester we don't have term limits on mayor, city council, any of that. I'm not sure. If New York City
think
does.
there is a term limit for New York.
Yeah.
I'll check it.
Yeah, could be. So this is what I see here. I see that we've got elected officials taking taxpayer dollars to travel around for personal gain, whether that's to get reelected, whether that's to further their name recognition, and it could be any candidate, whether it's for governor, for mayor, for county exec. This to me is a really big issue. So after the break, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some other things that incumbents and elected officials do with your money that I think is wrong to further their candidacy and give personal gain. And then after that, we're going to talk about this Area 51 thing because it's interesting. It's kind of fun. It's a joke, but people are taking it seriously. So we'll be back on Radio Free New York.
Listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol serviced and tuned before you take it to the field. Open daily. Avon Gun, East Main Street, between the Bank of Castile and Charlotte's Web of Odds and Ends.
Your business relies on technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
All right, guys, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about some things that surfaced because of the New York City blackout. Now, this has been going on for a while, but it's worth discussing. And that's the idea that politicians, actually, let me take a step back for those who are just joining us here on the show. CNN wrote an article basically calling out Mayor de Blasio about the fact that he was out campaigning for president in Iowa during the New York City blackout that happened this weekend, which brings up the discussion about, hey, elected officials are out campaigning, trying to elevate their status, trying to increase, get themselves better personal gain with taxpayer dollars. That's happening. It needs to stop. So another thing that happens often, and it's done in such a way that people, they don't always notice it. You don't always realize what's going on. But did you ever notice before an election, you'll start getting letters and stuff like that from your elected officials, your incumbents who are up for election, and it'll say something like, "Oh, did you know that we have something, this cool after school program? I'm just writing you to let you know that, your school district is offering this after school program, blah, 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 from the office of your friendly elected official," that sort of thing. And it's about everything: after school programs, electronic recycling programs, some new composting initiative, maybe an announcement of some new building, or a completion of a road or a bridge. Some of the even like funnier ones are not even something they did. "Oh, did you know that our school met honor roll? 47 kids, met honor roll," or this or that. This elected official didn't even have anything to do with the school board, the education of these students, nothing. But they're using taxpayer dollars that come out of your paycheck, your property tax, to send out a mailer to have people see them in a more positive light, to see their name again, to think good, warm, fuzzy things about them, all paid for out of maybe a county budget, a state budget, a local city budget, or a town budget. They're campaigning with your money when they do that. And you'll see it happen. It guaranteed. 2 months before November, you'll start to see these letters come out. And or before a primary, if they're being primaried or any of that, you'll see it happen. To me, it's extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. Bobby, you looked like you wanted to jump in there.
Nah, it's just what they do.
Yeah.
It's like in their DNA.
Yeah.
If they see success, they see public adulation, or admiration, I should say, more than adulation. They've got to jump. It's just that's one thing that politicians do. Another thing politicians do is they insert themselves in every revenue stream.
Sure.
This is like a reflexive thing for Governor Headcase. I mean, Cuomo.
Yeah.
We're going to have legalized sports betting? No, not until the state can get their cut.
Regulation to license it or something. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that happens consistently. And, I've got a serious issue with that. And some people will say, well, they have to notify the community about what's going on, what your taxpayer dollars are spending.
No, they don't.
On,
That's why we got news media.
Stuff. Yeah, well, we've got the media. We're going to talk about them later a little bit. But here's my rebuttal to that. Did you ever notice that your state lawmaker, your county representative, your town board member, your mayor, do they ever send you a letter saying, "Hey, I just want you to know this law was recently passed and it impacts you, and you could go to jail or become a felon if you do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, this and that"? Do they ever do that? No. You don't ever get those letters before the election. Why would they do that? Well, A, it would show transparency. That would be an issue. And B, you might be really upset about that law being passed. So if it was actually about communicating with constituents, if it was actually about making sure that you're in the know, you would be getting those letters, because these people aren't acting as public servants. They're acting as lawmakers. And there's a big distinction there. These elected officials, they are writing law that regulate your life, but they don't want you to know about it till you're in trouble.
They're not interested in anything other than your vote. No. All they want to do is pull some scam on you to get your vote every election day. Yep. I hate to sound cynical about this, but look, this is the reality of it. Once your vote is cast, day one after election day, they're done with you.
They're gone. Yeah, no, absolutely. And what's also really painful about that is everybody talks about that on social media constantly. You'll see people comment on all these elected officials' pages or people running for office and say, "Yeah, you're listening to me today, but it's only because it's an election year. We're not going to hear from you for another 4 years after you get elected." And then that person gets elected, And that's basically what happens. They drop off the face of the earth. They start collecting that paycheck. Maybe they vote for some laws. They increase your taxes. Your assessments go up, this and that. But they tell you they're cutting a tax. And there's air quotes for those of you who are listening to me on the radio, because they always say they're cutting a tax, but they never cut spending. And I got news for you. You can't cut taxes without cutting spending. So really what's happening is they'll shift it up somewhere else. You know, they'll tell you, we're cutting property tax, but we've increased spending by less than 2%. Yeah, well, how's that work?
It's a shell game.
You know, so they've cut your property tax, but now your gas tax went up. Or they've cut the gas tax, but now the business tax goes up. Or they've cut this tax, but the fee at the DMV goes up. Or they cut this other tax, and now your New York State surcharge on something else goes up. There's no cutting taxes without cutting spending.
There's a gaposis which is developed, and this is a global phenomenon, ladies and gentlemen, between what government does and what the electorate wants. I mean, just a few examples. First of all, look at England. I mean, it's very clear that the residents of Great Britain want out of the EU.
The EU, yeah. Yep.
It's been abundantly, and look at the frustration over and over and over again, which has occurred within the Great Britain political machine to stop that. Look in Germany. The Germans want to stop the mass importation of Muslim immigrants. And what happens? Angela Merkel doubles down on it.
Yeah.
In California, in this country, it was either 3 or 4 times Californians voted. This is a deep blue state too, to not legalize gay marriage. They wanted gay marriage to be between a man and a woman.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
The referendum came up. It was 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, like 62% in favor of keeping marriage between a man and a woman. And what happened? The legislature totally ignored that. They did. They went out and they found themselves a friendly court, a friendly jurisdiction, and they got what they wanted handed to them by a court on a silver platter.
Yeah.
And this just goes on and on and on. Look at New York State wants fracking. Do we have fracking? No. Did we want the SAFE Act? No.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of goes back to the whole, the purpose of government is to protect your rights, not regulate your life. I personally don't think that government should be involved in marriage at all. Government should have no say in that.
I agree with that.
The only thing that the government should have involved with marriage is, if you wanted it to be on record as a legal contract. That's the only piece where you could go to your county clerk or whatever and say, yes, we've entered into a marital relationship. We just want it on record in case the hospital needs to know for power of attorney or something like that. But even that, you can sign over power of attorney to somebody who you're not married to. Marriage to me is something that why is the government regulating marriage?
Well, truthfully, though, isn't that what California was saying? They're voting in favor of traditional marriage. In other words, the status quo. So really what they're saying is government butt out of this.
Yeah,
we've got this handled through our families, through our churches.
Yep.
This is not something, this is an appropriate role for government.
Yeah, and to me personally, why does government need to know who you're sleeping with? That to me is they shouldn't need to know that. That's not the government's business. That's not even the government's role. Government should be out of there totally. And that's just a big issue we have today is government has its hands in just everything. And we talked about this last show when we talked about term limits and how they say, we need 4 or 5 years just to learn the job. Well, I tell you what, if government didn't have its hands in everybody's life, if it was simpler and smaller, and I still think 4 to 5 years to learn a job is just totally insane.
Ridiculous.
But
that's an excuse.
Let's just say that were true. I'll just, sure, we'll say that's true for a second, just for sake of argument. And I would say, well, if government wasn't regulating everybody's life, if you didn't have your tentacles and everything, it wouldn't take that long to learn that position. It wouldn't be so complex. You wouldn't need years of experience. You wouldn't need all these shady donors and all this other stuff and lobbyists to tell you what laws to write to benefit some corporation. Make government simple. Bring it back to protecting rights, not regulating your life. And that's not an issue. So I had mentioned that, your elected officials aren't actually mailing you the laws that they're passing. They're basically mailing you campaigning pieces that don't look like it, but subliminally, that's basically what it is. And here's my take on this. And this is the other reason, because, the environmentally friendly crowd would jump on this in a heartbeat. If they actually did that, imagine what it would look like in New York State if your legislators mailed you a copy of every law that they pass and explained it to you in layman's terms so you know what it means. I would say every forest in New York would be gone in one legislative session. I mean, it would just be so much paper.
It would take a UPS truck per voter.
Yeah.
To bring the laws.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're worried about greenhouse emissions right now. I mean, that would totally. So, and that's really the issue. If elected officials aren't actually notifying you of the laws they're passing, they're just letting you know feel good stuff. They're just campaigning to you with taxpayer dollars. And I've got a big issue with that. So, all of that being said, yeah, all of this came to mind because of New York City's blackout and CNN yelling at de Blasio. So, we're going to take our last break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the people online who want to storm Area 51. Close to 500,000 people have RSVP'd to this event, saying that they are going to go storm Area 51. We'll talk about it on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Ready to get wet? Come to the Soak Zone at Seabreeze. Catch the crazy curves of the new Twister water slide. Take a little plunge on the new pipeline. Plus, do all your favorites: the dumping bucket, the raceway slide, aqua blasters, and more. Come get soaked at the new Soak Zone. There's so much water fun so close to home.
Come get your summer at Seabreeze.
Get your tickets online at Seabreeze.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we bring to you this breaking news. People are looking to storm Area 51. This is interesting to me. It doesn't totally fit into the things that we normally talk about, but the more I see it day after day of all these people making memes about it, sharing it, I had to see what is this storming Area 51 thing about? And so I'm going to just real quick read you guys this article, once again on CNN. CNN's got a couple articles on the show today, which is not often this happens.
No.
So, but you'll understand why shortly. All right, so CNN, title of this article is Thousands of People Have Taken to a Facebook Pledge to Storm Area 51 to see them aliens.
Is it being guarded by aliens?
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. All right, so here's the article. It's pretty short. Stretch those quads and prep that tinfoil hat. Over 300,000 people have signed on to a Facebook event pledging to raid Area 51 in Nevada in a quest to see them aliens. The event, titled Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us, is inviting users from around the world to join a Naruto run.
What?
Yep, a Japanese manga-inspired running style featuring arms outstretched backwards and head forward into the area. We can move faster than their bullets, the event page, which was clearly written in tongue-in-cheek, promises to those RSVP for September 20th.
Make sure you pack a Tide Pod or two for the trek across the desert.
Yep. Then it goes on to say, what people are after and stuff. At the very bottom of the article, it says, though the September event is most certainly a joke, it comes just a few weeks after a group of senators was briefed about reported encounters between the U.S. Navy and an unidentified aircraft, literally an unidentified flying object. So why did I share this article with you guys? Because part of the issue that we're facing here now is what's all the hype about storming Area 51? Who's behind it? Is it the right? Is it the left? The socialists? The communists? The capitalists?
It's Trump's fault.
Maybe it's Trump's fault. I don't know. What I do know is it's actually a joke. And if you go to the Facebook
like The Onion?
page,
or what is this?
Some would say the CNN is the Onion, but so this is just some guy. He made a video about it. He's a gamer, and he records him playing video games on the internet through a service called Twitch, and created a Facebook event and started inviting people to it. It is clearly a joke. But the problem is, and just to give you guys an idea here, Naruto is it's a cartoon character, and there's memes about him on the internet doing this goofy run, and like people, they're not understanding this. And so one of the statements like made on this event page is, if we Naruto run, we can move faster than their bullets, and people are looking at this.
Who's shooting?
The military, they're saying when they storm Area 51 and the security forces.
Because they're afraid that people are going to steal the aliens?
Yeah. So clearly this event's a joke. It now has over 500,000 people RSVP'd saying they're going to show up and storm Area 51.
Wonder how many will actually show up.
Probably none of them. But the thing is, people are reading the headlines and they're believing that this is true. And they think that there's a legitimate plan in place to storm Area 51.
And critical thinking is dead.
It's just
people don't question.
Totally gone. Yeah. And so the problem is now what you would call legit, and air quotes again for those who are on the radio, mainstream media sources like CNN now reporting on this. But they're not leading off with, hey, guys, by the way, this is a joke. Hey, this is satire.
They're seriously reporting this like it's going to happen?
They're reporting this. It's trending on Twitter above like almost everything else, So this is happening. People are seeing it. Now, there's a segment of the internet, they totally get it's a joke. They think it's hilarious. I find it funny. So they're contributing to it. They're making memes. They're talking about it. People are looking at the memes and they're going, oh, this must be true. It must be happening. They're not taking even the 30 seconds to just Google and see, what's this Area 51 thing? Like I literally this morning to see what would come up, I opened up Google and I said, what's going on with Area 51? And if you read, you would see this is a joke. I Googled, what's this Area 51 thing? Like all these Google searches. And if you spent just 5 full minutes, you'd understand that it's a joke, you know? And what's coming out of this is people starting to get angry, saying, you know, oh, these dumb people, they don't understand. They're going to get killed. They're going to get shot. You know, this thing, it's like, no, it's a joke. It's not actually happening. But then as I'm reading, now people are like, well, now that people believe this is a real thing, people might actually go there thinking,
well, that's what I was
this
thinking.
is a real thing.
I brought it up. How many will actually show up?
How many people are going to show up? So now the question becomes, if people do in fact show up, you know, and what people are going to
What's wrong with them? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, that's a good question. But what if people actually now try to assault a U.S. military base on U.S. soil? Clearly, the people who are going to show up, they're not going to be in any way like armed, prepared, or anything. You know, these are going to be people who are probably
paper pushers.
You know, like my opinion would be probably into conspiracy theories. You know, clearly not educated on what's going on.
What do they do at Area 51 now? Is it just?
I did a little bit of research, and the only publicly available knowledge on what's going on with Area 51 is it's designed to research and track down unidentified air objects that come into our airspace and reportings of them, and also to experiment with experimental aircraft. And they also use it for testing like air to ground weapons, machinery, machine guns, like that sort of thing. That's the only like publicly available knowledge that I found that also seemed to be backed up and like, yes, this is actually, you know, what's not just like somebody said that's what's happening and with no stuff. So what else happens there? Who knows? Maybe there are aliens. I don't know. I'm not gonna, you know, say that that's not going on. But
look at aliens. Look at McAllen, Texas. Yeah, there's about 12,000 a day coming over the border.
There you go. Yep. But the question becomes, say people show up. Let's say all 500,000 of the people on Facebook decide to show up. And one of the things that came out of this, and there's tons of memes about this, if you go on the internet and look for them, you won't have any trouble finding them. One of the things they said is, well, they can't stop all of us. There's 500,000 of us, you know, and then you've got people with pictures of warplanes and stuff like 500,000 people matter, you know, compared to missiles and, you know, 50 cal machine guns. And to this point, before I go on to the who could be held accountable piece, there is literally you know, one of the guys who put this together, but you know, he put up like another screenshot. It's hilarious. It's basically like a Google Maps image of Area 51, and then squiggly lines drill it like all over. This is our attack plan. Like, and there's a green line. And it's all like just awful, you know, and a blue line and a black line, and just a little like it looks like a third grader drew this. You know, it's bad. And he's like, "Hello, U.S. government. This is a joke, and I don't actually intend to go ahead with this plan. I just thought it would be funny and get some thumbsy uppies on the internet. I'm not responsible if people actually decide to storm Area 51. But that brings up the question. Who would be responsible if people show up and they get hurt? Who would be held accountable? Certainly not the media.
The people who are storming Area 51 would be accountable because they're trespassing and probably ignoring all kinds of posted warnings about it being, I don't know, a classified military area or whatever. So they're the ones that, I mean...
You would think so, but the public outcry of Americans, I don't think anybody would hold the media accountable. I don't think they would even try to hold accountable the people who created the event.
Well, if the CNN's the only one that's really giving this any play, there's nothing to worry about because CNN has no viewers.
Because nobody's reading.
Nobody's watching.
Nobody's looking,
so,
yeah.
You know.
But I do wonder if people would say, well, this shouldn't be allowed on Facebook. And I wonder if that would become the next level of Facebook censorship, where Facebook is already censoring a ton of stuff, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore.
This brings up an interesting, obviously it's the last minute of the show, so we can't talk about it, but you may want to talk, we may want to talk, it's up to you, about this, this phenomenon that's going on between major corporations, particularly in Silicon Valley and government.
Yeah, no,
to
absolutely.
avoid accountability.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that. Maybe next Monday or Friday. What we're going to talk about this Friday is the difference between healthcare and health insurance, and why does the cost of health insurance keep going up while your health care seems to keep going down? We'll talk about that on Radio Free New York.
$197 a month. Only $197 a month for a new $29,000 Patrick GMC